Now this question says if x and y are integers such that 5x plus 7y is less than 0, that means it's negative, and 5x plus 9 in bracket y minus 2 is greater than 0, that means it's positive, which of the following must be true? So here in this question we are asked to choose the options that is always true. That is the mathematical meaning of the word must in this question. So let's start solving. Now for 5x plus 7 multiplied by y to be negative, there are two cases. That means 5x plus 7 and y are of different signs. So it is either 5x plus 7 is positive and y is negative, or 5x plus 7 is negative and y is positive. So let's start the first case. So we have case 1. 5x plus 7, we want it to be positive. So that means 5x, or rather, let me just solve from here. X will be equals to, if you make x a formula, x will be greater than minus 7 over 5. Since we want y to be negative, and then y will be less than 0. That is for case 1. Case 2. Case 2, we want 5x plus 7 to be negative. So that means x will be less than minus 7 over 5, and y will be positive. So we move to this other question. Now in this case, we are told 5x plus 9 multiplied by y minus 2 is positive. So that means the two terms are of the same signs. It is either 5x plus 9 is negative and y minus 2 is negative, or 5x plus 9 is positive and y minus 2 is positive. So we move to case 3 in that case. Case 3. So we want 5x plus 9. We want it to be negative, so this will be less than 0. So x from here will be less than minus 9 over 5. And y minus 2 is also negative. Y minus 2 is less than 0. That means y is less than 2. So case 4. We want the two of them to be positive. That means 5x plus 9. Okay, now let me wipe this off. That means 5x plus 9 is greater than 0. Let me bring this down. So that means this gives us x will be greater than minus 9 over 5. And so let's solve for the second case. And y minus 2 is also positive, that is greater than 0. So that means y is greater than 2. Now let's see how we can combine all these cases to be able to determine the final answer. Let's start with the cases. Now if you look at case 1, we combine it with, now this case 1 and case 2 are based on calculations from this particular question. Case 3 and case 4 are based on the second inequality. start with the first case. We pair that up with the first case of the second inequality. Now let's look at the x value. This one tells us x is greater than minus 7 over 5. So what does that mean? It means x could be negative. Okay, this one will give us 1 point something. This is minus 1 point something. So let's draw a number line. So this is minus 1, minus 2, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. So minus 1 point something will be somewhere around here before 2. So that means x is greater than minus 1 point something. So the value of x will be in this direction. So that means x could be minus 1, it could be 0, it could be 1, it could be 2. So that means it could be negative, it could be 0, it could be 1, it could be 2. So we don't know. Now this one is telling us y is negative. So let's pair that up with the first case of the second inequality. This one is telling us x is less than minus 9 over 5. So if we compute these two values, we will see that minus 1 point something means less than. It will go in this direction, the number line. So there is no overlap between the values of x in case 1 and case 3. So that means these two cases cannot help us determine the actual values of x and y. So we leave case 3. So that means we can pair case 1 and 3 can provide the answer we are looking for. So we move on to case 1 and case 4. So let me reduce the size so that we can follow the explanation. So in case 1, we are told that x is greater than minus 7 over 5. And then x is also greater than this, minus 9 over 5. And then let's look at this. This one tells us x could be, just like in this case, x could be minus 1, 0, 1, 2. So that is the combined information of case 1 and case 4. Let's look at y. Y is telling us y is negative. Here, this one is telling us y is greater than 2. There is no overlap between the values of y. So case 1 and case 4 cannot help us to determine the values of x and y. So we discard case 1. We move on to case 2. Let's pair case 2 and case 3. Now if you look at case 2 here, x is less than minus 7 over 5. Then in case 3 here, x is less than minus 9 over 5. You can see that there is an overlap between these two values of x. So if you combine these two information, the two inequality tells us that x is negative. We may not know what the value of x is. From the way the question is structured, we don't even need to know the actual value of x is. So these two inequality combine to tell us that x is negative. Let's look at the value of y. Here, the value of y is greater than 0. Here, y is less than 2. Let's combine those two information. If you combine these two inequality, if y is greater than 0, that means 0 is less than y. That's what it means. 0 is less than y. Then if you combine this, y is less than 2, we have something like this. So if in the question we are told that x and y are integers, we already know from the inequality of x that x is negative. And then if x and y are integers, that means y is definitely 1. Because the only integer between 0 and 2 is 1. So we know for a fact now that y equals 1. So combining case 2 and case 3 has helped us to determine what the value of x and y, what their values are. Now this one is okay. Let's check for case 2 and case 4. Now if you look at case 2 and case 4, x is less than minus 7 over 5. Then in this case, x is greater than minus 9 over 5. You can see there is no overlap. Once there is no overlap between the x values, I don't need to even check the y values. So that means case 2 and 3 are the only two that can help us to answer this question. So based on the information they provided, we know that x is negative. That means x is less than 0 and y equals 1. So let's go to the options. Let's go to the options. Large. Now, if you look at the options now, based on what we just finished doing, we know that y equals 1. That is true. It is true in all cases. We know that x is less than 0 means x is negative. This is true. Now, and from the values we got for x and y, x is negative and y is positive because 1 is positive. Minus times plus will give us negative, so this is also true. So that means statements 1, 2, and 3 are true. So the answer to this question is A. So thank you for your patience to wait until the end of this question, until we meet again next time.